What exactly was Operation Midnight Hammer? How did the US execute this attack with such precision and secrecy? How did 6 bunker busters and 75 guided weapons reshape the battlefield? And what does it mean for the region? In this video, I'll explain everything in simple terms, the timeline, the technology and the possible fallout. Hi, I'm Khatija and you're watching the Free Press Journal. In a major escalation, the United States has launched a powerful surprise attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. The mission code-named Operation Midnight Hammer involved stealth bombers, bunker buster bombs, submarine-fired missiles and some of the most advanced military tactics we have seen in years. So let's break it down. On Friday midnight, something massive took off from Missouri, USA. 7 stealth B-2 Spirit bombers. These aircraft are like flying shadows, silent, deadly, invisible to most radars. Their mission? Strike Iran's most protected nuclear sites, Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan. This wasn't just any military move. This was Operation Midnight Hammer, a highly secretive and precision strike planned over months. So here's what happened. A total of over 125 US aircraft were involved. Dozens of refueling tankers were up in the sky to support them. A US submarine in the region was also part of the plan. It launched more than 24 Tomahawk cruise missiles. But here's the twist. To confuse Iran, the US sent some aircraft in the opposite direction, towards the Pacific as a decoy. Only a few top planners in Washington and Tampa knew the real route. The actual bombers flew 18 hours with minimal communication to avoid detection. Then, just before entering Iran, they linked up with other escort and support aircraft in what US officials called a complex and tightly timed maneuver. At exactly 5 p.m. on Saturday, the US submarine launched Tomahawk missiles at Iran's Isfahan site. Just 100 minutes later, at 6:40 p.m., the B-2 bombers dropped the first GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, also called bunker busters, on Fordow. These bombs weigh 30,000 pounds each. That's about the size of a school bus, and they are designed to go deep underground and destroy heavily fortified bunkers. A total of 14 bunker busters were used, targeting Fordow and Natanz, Iran's 2 most sensitive nuclear facilities. Then the Tomahawk missiles struck Isfahan, hitting above ground infrastructure. And just like that, within 25 minutes, the US strike was over. The bombers turned around and began their long return flight home. Now the most surprising part, Iran's defense system didn't even see them. US jets were not fired upon. No Iranian fighter jets flew up. It was as if the entire operation passed by in complete silence. At a press briefing, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth called it a huge success and said Iran's nuclear program had been obliterated. General Dan Kane, the top military official explaining the attack, said the final damage assessment is ongoing, but the initial damage is extremely severe. Now here's why this matters. This is the first time the US has used this 30,000 pound bunkers busters in an actual combat mission. It also marks the second largest B-2 operation since the 9 out of 11 attacks. And it comes just after Israel began its own attacks on Iran, claiming Iran was close to making a nuclear bomb. In fact, this strike came just 2 days after President Trump said he would wait 2 weeks before deciding to help Israel. But clearly that decision was fast-tracked. Trump reportedly watched the operation from the White House Situation Room. And after the success, he posted on Truth Social, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Now the question everyone is asking, what will Iran do next? Well, Iran has denied major damage, but it's also vowed retaliation. According to Iranian sources, over 430 people have died and more than 3,500 are injured since Israel began its campaign. And in Israel, 24 civilians are dead, over 1,200 injured. The region is already on fire with wars in Gaza, Lebanon and Syria, and this strike risks pouring fuel on that fire. Meanwhile, back in Washington, congressional leaders were notified only after the planes were safe. White House officials say they tried calling Democrat leaders before the strike, but only reached them after. This was not just a military strike, this was a message from the US that it will not allow Iran to build nuclear weapons, and that it has the power and planning to strike anywhere, anytime without warning. Now what happens next depends on Tehran. Will Iran retaliate strongly? Will this spiral into a full-blown war? We'll keep tracking this story closely, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for updates.